Hi, this is another episode of Coding Class with MasterHun. Today I'm going to talk about the FizzBuzz problem. It's very popular in the coding world. First we have to know what FizzBuzz is. FizzBuzz is a game you play in a group, in a circle typically, usually with more than 3. So you have the first player in the circle says 1, the second player says 2, then the third player says 3. Oops, I'm sorry, I already messed up the game. The third player will say fizz. Every multiple of 3, you must say fizz and not 3 or 6 or 9 or whatever. If you don't say fizz, but instead of saying number, you are out. Okay, so then assuming we only have 3 players, so we have the first player says 1, the second player says 2, the third player says fizz. Then we go back to the first player, then the first player will say 4, and then the second player will say not 5, but buzz. So every multiple of 5, you must say buzz. And then you play on and on until you hit, and then you say the appropriate fizz or buzz. Now, when you come to the number, when the player whose turn it is to say 15 instead of 15, they are supposed to say FizzBuzz. FizzBuzz is a multiple, is 3 times 5, or you could think of it as fizz times buzz. So whatever fizz and buzz is, you multiply the 2 integers, and then you get FizzBuzz. But in this case, fizz is 3, buzz is 5, so FizzBuzz must be fizz times buzz, which is equal to 15. So the player whose number is a multiple of 15 must say FizzBuzz. Otherwise, they are out of the game. Okay, so I think you have an idea of what the game is. So in Python, if we were going to use Python to help us play this game, it would be a good idea to create a FizzBuzz function. And how do we create a function in Python? Oh, a function is a block of code that does one job. And what is the job of this FizzBuzz function? Is to return, we are going to pass it input, an integer, a whole number, num, as we call it here. This is the parameter we are going to set up for FizzBuzz, the function, num. And whatever num is, it will tell us whether the num is, it will return us the output, which will either be, will be either a string, a message, saying it's either FizzBuzz, or it will just return the original number because it is neither FizzBuzz or FizzBuzz. Now in Python, in order to declare or define a function, we first must use the def keyword. Def, D-E-F, short for define a function. So we have the def keyword, then we have to have the name of the function, whatever the name we decide to make it. Then we have these parentheses, and inside the parentheses, if it takes input, we will have the names of all the parameters that we need for this function. Not all functions require parameters, inputs, even though the function does not require any parameters or inputs, you still need the parentheses. Please keep that in mind. Now, okay, so we have the def keyword. We have the def keyword, def. We have the function name, parentheses, parameters, or not. And very importantly, we will have a colon. So colon, and then after the colon, we will indent, and then we will have our block of code. This is the block of code that will figure out whether the number, the num that we pass to this function, is whether it is FizzBuzz, or it is just the number itself, because it's not fizz or buzz or FizzBuzz. Okay. Now, in other languages, it's possible to set up a constant variable, which is kind of an oxymoron if you think about it. In Python, when you want to indicate that a variable is a constant, in other words, we're going to create a variable, we're going to assign it a value, and then for the rest of the runtime of the program, this variable will not change. In Python, it doesn't have this capability. Instead, what we do is you capitalize the name of the constant variable, and that indicates to you and to other coders that these are constants and should not be messed with once after they've been initialized with whatever constant value you want it to have. So I've done that here. So FizzBuzz and FizzBuzz, they are supposed to be constants. They're not supposed to change while the program is running. While the program is running, fizz is always 3, buzz is always 5, and FizzBuzz is always 15. Of course, before you run this program, you could change FizzBuzz, fizz and buzz, right? We can change fizz and buzz, and then we would get different results, different outputs. However, FizzBuzz would state that you wouldn't, but you don't need to change anything in FizzBuzz because we've made this into a relationship. So whatever fizz and buzz is, FizzBuzz is fizz times buzz. Fizz times buzz. So you only need to change, if you wanted to change, you could change fizz and or buzz, but you don't have to change FizzBuzz because the computer will already, because the code will figure that out and take care of that for you. Okay, so in order for this function to work properly, I have encoded this if, else block. So let me just quickly go through this. If the number is a 0, we don't want zeros. We want to have non-zero numbers. So if it is a 0, if num is a 0, we want to return an error message, error, 0 not allowed. Okay. Assuming num is not 0, then we will check for this first condition, which oddly enough is we're checking for FizzBuzz first. Why is that? Why are we checking for FizzBuzz first? We're checking for FizzBuzz first because, to make a long story short, the way the computer thinks is different from the way human being thinks. We human beings will of course, if you play this game, you check for fizz first, then for buzz, then FizzBuzz, because we're going from a lower number to a higher number. But a computer can easily handle the higher number first. Now, assuming num is not equal to 0, and if num is a multiple of 15, then this function will return FizzBuzz, and it doesn't need to check for FizzBuzz or fizz or buzz. I mean, it skips all this section here. It just skips it because it already knows what it to return. Because if a number is FizzBuzz, then it must be Fizz. Then it includes already the Fizz and Buzz. I hope that made sense. Okay, so if the number is not equal to 0 and is not FizzBuzz, then we will check to see if is the number a multiple, is the number Fizz? Is it a multiple of 3? If it is not a multiple of 3, then we'll check for the next condition. Is the number Buzz? Is it a multiple of 5? Okay, so if the number is not 0, if the number is not a multiple of 15, it's not a multiple of 3, and it's not a multiple of 5, then the number must be just the number. So we will return the number as is. Return the number. Now, once after you define a function, you have to call the function to get an output. However, if you get the output, you won't see anything. You won't see an output from the code until you use the print function. So we need to call the function inside the print function. So what the computer will do is it will evaluate. It will call the function FizzBuzz, tell us what 15 is, which we already know is FizzBuzz. So once this function returns the number, when this function, the FizzBuzz function, returns the string FizzBuzz, then we can print the string, and then we would see an output, FizzBuzz. Okay, so I'll show you. I'll run the code, and then you can see that that's what it does. And we can see that we have to go back up, and we can see that here we got the output, FizzBuzz. We got a whole bunch of outputs actually. Okay. And lastly, I want to quickly talk about. So in this section here, if you can see this, okay, in this section we have an example of a for loop. Now, computers are very good at doing the same things over and over. Human beings are not. So thankfully we have computers to repeat tasks for us that we would find mind-numbing to do. So in this example, we have a for loop. We want to pass all the numbers from 1 to 50 to the FizzBuzz function, and then we want to know what the output is. So we'll have one long list of numbers from 1 to 50 and know which numbers are Fizz, which numbers are Buzz, and which numbers are FizzBuzz, and which numbers are just the numbers themselves. So in Python, in Python you can code a for loop very simply. So quickly, I'm going to just say, first you need to use the for keyword in order to code a for loop in Python. For I in range 1 to 51. And then we have a colon again, and then we have this one line of code in the block. We have a block of code that's consists of only one line, which is this print function. And inside the print function again, we are calling the FizzBuzz. So now so what's going to happen here is this for loop is going to loop 50 times, and and I will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, on until, and it will also become 50. And so, for example, I'll try to keep this short. So for I in range 1 to 51, so in the first loop, I will be 1, and then we'll run this block of code, this very short block of code print, and then I will is 1 here. This I will replace with the value 1. FizzBuzz function called on the value I, which is 1, and then this one line of code, this block of code, which is 1 line, will execute, and then we'll go back up here, and then I will become 2, and then we'll go back, and then we'll print FizzBuzz with the value of 2. Then we'll go back up here, and then I will become 3, and then on and on. So loop 50 times from 1 to 50. And then we can see we have this output. And the output wouldn't look like this. It would be just one long stream. Each print function would be outputting on its own separate line, but I just put in this format so it's just easier to read. So let me just run the code again, and you'll see. And oops, sorry about that. You see this just prints each line as one stream of a huge stream of output, starting from 1 to 50, which is buzz. But I just put it in this format here, just so it'd be easier for you to read on the screen. Okay, we covered a lot today. So I talked about what a function is, and I talked about FizzBuzz, the coding problem, and I quickly talked about how to define a function in Python, how to call a function in Python, and I also talked about constant variables, which is an oxymoron again. Okay, well, thank you for viewing this third episode in this series, Coding Class with MasterHun. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you in episode 4. Goodbye.